I yearn for the mines. I wish to grind for the diamond armor, full set.
What end to them, man? Get back to the factory, boy.
Hi there, I'm Jim. Today's topic is the Industrial Revolution. Specifically, the alcohol drinking, burger smasher, ego-loving United States of goddamn America. First of all, what is the Industrial Revolution? Well, it's a series of technological advancements in a certain period of time that creates a transition from an agricultural age to a technological age. Oh, it's him! He's coming out!
Hey, I'm Jim, and you are in dire need of context. In other words, before we cover what actually happened during the Industrial Revolution in the U.S., we kind of need to talk about what happened right before the revolution. First of all, the Industrial Revolution was an event happening during the westward expansion of America. Although it varied quite a bit, a lot of inventions and evolutions came after the War of 1812. So, we can consider that as a starting point for the Industrial Revolution. Let's get an expert's point of view. Set the stage for the advancements. Let's talk about what things were like before the revolution. Here we have my partner, John News, interviewing history expert Matthew Santiago. That's right, the Matthew Santiago of Mesa Middle School.
Thanks, Jim. I got a list of questions for Mr. Santiago here, mostly ranging from 1800 to 1812. Let's get started. First of all, in this time period, 1800 to 1812, would you say most of the cities or towns were more agricultural or technological?
I would say at this time, especially in the westward expansion area, a lot of the towns are agricultural. One thing that is going to spark them to change into more industrial would be them finding materials like coal, gold, almost mix those up, coal, gold, diamonds, and things like granite.
Following that, they were pretty self-sufficient, right?
No, a lot of them aren't that self-sufficient. With these new towns on the westward expansion, with them popping up, they're gonna need supplies to be shipped in all the time. That's wagon trains. When they invent the steam engine, those trains are gonna bring those essential supplies to those cities that are kind of on their own out in the westward expansion, kind of on the island.
Yeah. So they're pretty disconnected.
Very disconnected.
Yeah. All right. And so before the Industrial Revolution, what were these jobs like?
A lot of those agricultural jobs that happen on the westward expansion are growing things like wheat, barley, corn to help provide for themselves. This is also where you have the influx of people starting to mine, going into the mines, getting coal as a heat source for those steam engines. And that's kind of before we have it industrialized, until we have these large factories and these large groups of people going in. Think of the smaller operations.
All right. And then during westward expansion, obviously the U.S. was claiming land. But how much of that land was actually used for homes, businesses, and farms?
A lot of it was used for farms, essentially. The idea that we could have all of this farmland, acres upon acres, but not only that, in the West you get a lot of sun. So we could grow things like wheat, corn, barley, rye. We could almost set it and forget it. Didn't have to sit there and tend to it like you would maybe on the East Coast, where you would get a lot of water that could waterlog your crops.
All right. And finally, what impact, if any, would you say wars and conflicts, with the Brits, have caused to the growth of these industries?
Yeah, we kind of had to give back parts of Canada in the War of 1812, and we did start to creep up that way. But with the acquisition of the Louisiana Purchase, we do have more and more people heading out west, and we already see that we know what we've seen in my class is that Native Americans have established themselves out on that western frontier. So it's an issue when you start moving out to these lands where we have ancestral homes from these natives. And then you're pushing them farther and farther west. Not only that, there's the Mexican Empire that has control of Texas that then causes a massive war in the Mexican-American War.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Sun.
Thank you, Jim.
Hold on. There's actually one more question. Do you like waffles or pancakes?
Waffles.
Yeah!
Thanks, John. Got a stupid but good conversation. From this, I can tell you that there were more factories, mines, and businesses instead of houses. I'm done here.
Hi, I'm Jim. Now that we've covered some history before the American Industrial Revolution, it's time to talk about what actually happened during the event. First thing that happened to kick off the Industrial Revolution is when a man named Samuel Slater used designs from Britain to create a textile mill. Eventually, another man named Moses Brown got Samuel's services. Soon enough, they created the first water-powered textile mill. Because of this, Samuel Slater was known as the father of the American Revolution, and to Britain, Slater the Traitor. That's a stupid name. Alongside the textile mill, there are many more improvements to British designs and many inventions in the American Industrial Revolution. First of all, although this was an earlier invention, many sources consider this a part of the revolution. It is Eli Whitney's cotton gin. What even is that? It's a machine that separates cotton seeds from the cotton fiber. The machine was purely an American invention. Secondly, similar to the textile mill, railroads were invented in Britain, yet expanded upon in America. The difference between the railroad from America to Britain is that the Americans created much larger networks of railroads than Britain. Moving on and getting to the bigger and more significant inventions, we get to the steam locomotive. This is again a British invention, although it was heavily improved by Americans. This was the first ever train built. It was known as the Penny Darien, and as you can see, it looks nothing like the type of steam train we picture in our heads. Here's a comparison between the British and American trains during the same time period. Anyways, with steam engines came another very important invention, steamboat. Unlike trains, steamboats were created in the United States by John Feach. He launched a steamboat in the Delaware River, resulting in a successful test drive. That's boat. Whatever. Overall, the Industrial Revolution in America had many advancements in many different industries.
Hi, I'm Jim, and in this segment, we're going to be talking about child labor. During the Industrial Revolution of America, child labor was a huge issue. Kids were working in factories, mills, and even mines. Poor kids. And a lot of these people didn't agree with having children work like this. There was, however, an act proposed by Congress to stop this. It was called Keating-Owen Children Labor Act. This act was made for factories cannot have any sales if they have children under 14 working. This act was, though, only passed in 1916, way past many of these advancements. So, in other words, child labor was a big thing, yet no one was there to stop it. On top of child labor, work conditions in these factories and mills were horrible. Many factory workers' wages were getting lower. There were no safety regulations, and people worked long hours. A certain example of people who organized and went against this was the Lowell Mill Girls. Many working in the textile mills started receiving wage cuts and rent increases. To protest against this, many of them quit, though some marched from their mills to Chapel Hill singing about how bad it is while carrying signs and banners. The Well girls were very devoted to going against these work conditions. I guess that's a good thing, but it's sad that they had to do that. I guess to wrap up the conflicts, let's talk about the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. The
Transcontinental.
Railroad was another example of poor work conditions during the American Industrial Revolution. First off, the process was very tedious. Workers had to lay tracks across 200 miles or more of certain non-flat terrain. They had to build snow sheds and blow up walls too. The workers of the track mainly consisted of Chinese and Irish immigrants who all had to use mainly hand tools and hand carts. Overall, the railroad was a very labor-intensive job that was so unsafe that approximately 1,200 people died. It was a complete, utter disaster.
The United States of America went through a period of time that changed the path of America forever. The path that those people took has brought us many inventions and evolutions in technology and would improve the future of America, but it also had many downsides. As many
Workplace environments weren't safe at all, affecting many. All in all, we would not be where we are today without the advancements made during the Industrial Revolution of America.